Prime Minister Abe in that context, as he invited the international speakers to dinner on the eve of the conference commencement. His engagement was warm. His understanding of global issues always impressive. And indeed, his appreciation of Jamaican sports and music is always at the forefront of his mind. Indeed, when he invited Prime Minister Holness on his official visit in 2019, this was present throughout the entirety of the visit. And Prime Minister, in his social media post this morning, has not only shared his own shock and sadness, but he shared some images from the visit where Prime Minister Abe had personally requested that a Japanese reggae sound system be present for the final event of the Jamaican visit. They're a sound system called the Mighty Crown, and they have in fact been recognized by our own JARIA because of their global reach. And indeed, when we're told that when the sound system started to play Coffee's Toast, and Prime Minister went to greet them, Prime Minister Abe joined him in not only greeting the sound system, but in dancing and enjoying the evening, which reminded us, of course, of his exploits on the dance floor with Prime Minister Simpson Miller when he was here in Jamaica, an event which he also recounted to me personally in the margins of the UN. I must say, Mr. President, that when I say that Japan has been a true friend to Jamaica, and indeed Prime Minister Abe was, I must mention the support which they have given to our security measures by providing at that 2019 meeting a pledge for 4 patrol vehicles, 2 of which I know have already arrived, and 2 more are scheduled to arrive this year if they have not yet. Their support for our health systems, having provided a significant sum value in equipment to support our health system through COVID and beyond. Their support for disaster risk response and management, which has been consistent, as Japan has always recognized that small island developing states have a particular vulnerability. And even when the OECD graduated Jamaica and other small island states that were still highly indebted and indicated that they were no longer eligible for overseas development assistance, Japan remained consistent and under Prime Minister Abe's leadership continued to provide grant funding. Japan is in fact one of our largest bilateral grant funding donors. It is a matter of significant appreciation and demonstration of friendship that goes, as we know, beyond sports and music into into these substantive, economic areas of support. So Jamaica has lost a friend, although of course Jamaica and Japan will continue to have strong, enduring relations. Former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe will rest strong in our memories. We convey our sincere sympathies to his wife, to their family, and indeed to the government and people of Japan as they mourn. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Minister. Senator Morris.
Thank you, Mr. President. To join on behalf of the opposition to express our deep shock and regret at this cowardly act that has been committed to one who the world can regard as a friend to humanity. And Mr. President, I have the distinct honor of meeting former Prime Minister Abe in 2015 when he came to visit Jamaica at the invitation of the government led by Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller. And it was at a time, Mr. President, when we had embarked on the economic recovery program, and the world was responding to the amazing progress that was being made by the government of Jamaica in light of the stringency of the IMF program that was being implemented. And as a part of the endorsement and support for the government, a number of world leaders visited Jamaica in 2015, and included in that grouping was Prime Minister Abe. I had the opportunity of speaking with him in my capacity as President of the Senate and a part of the delegation that met him at the airport. And one of the things that I can echo, Minister, is what you said about his absolute, how impressed he was with Jamaican music, Jamaican sports, Jamaican culture in general. And, you know, he was even more impressed by what we were doing to take on the challenges of the economic problems that we were experiencing. You know, he served an extraordinarily long time as Prime Minister of Japan and was responsible for establishing a long period of peace, economic growth, and prosperity in Japan. And that is why it came so shocking to me as to really what would have triggered this. I know that the job of a politician is a hazardous one, and, you know, we can't forever put down our guards, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the situation. And I am going to be watching and listening as to what are the developments taking place around this particular case, because, you know, he to have served so long as Prime Minister of Japan meant that he was loved and respected by the Japanese people. And so, you know, Mr. President, we are deeply shocked on this side, and we are regretful of what has taken place. Japan is one of our longest serving international partners. We have established diplomatic relationship with Japan from 1964, and you know, they have been extremely good friends of Jamaica. And you know, I've always, in my intervention, speak about what happens where persons with disabilities are concerned, and I know for a fact that the bilateral programs that Minister spoke about have benefited persons with disabilities because they have one of the largest small grants program for grassroots organizations, of which persons with disabilities have benefited. So, you know, his work and work of his country has impacted on Jamaica, and we, on the side of the opposition, want to extend our profound regrets and sadness at his passing, and to his family we offer our prayers. May it please you, Mr. President.
Yes, thank you very much. I also had the pleasure of meeting him in 2019. So it's someone I think that has touched the lives of many of us in the Senate in one way or the other. Inevitably, the government of Jamaica will convey the sadness of the government and the people of Jamaica to the government of Japan. But in the interim, I would ask that the clerk write to the Japanese ambassador here and convey to him the fact that we had discussed this matter this morning, and also send a copy of the relevant Hansard recording to His Excellency, the Japanese ambassador here. Statements by ministers. Announcements.
The clerk laid on the table of the House a copy of the following: the Bauxite Production Levy Act, Capital Development Fund, Withdrawal Number 1, Order 2022 and Resolution. The Economic and Social Survey, Jamaica 2021. The Land Divestment Annual Report 2020-2021. The Kingston Container Terminal Services Limited Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements for the financial year 2016-2017. The Development Bank of Jamaica Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements for the financial year 2018-2019. The Universal Services Fund Annual Report for the financial year 2020-2021. The Integrity Commission Annual Report for the financial year 2021-2022. The General Consumption Tax Amendment of Schedules Number 2 Order 2022 and Resolution under the General Consumption Tax Act. Report of the Regulations Committee of the Honourable Senate on its deliberations on the Hire Purchase Amendment Regulations 2022. The National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Windcrest Hills Housing Development Order 2022. The National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Twickenham Glades Housing Development Order 2022. The Road Traffic Act, the Road Traffic Regulations 2022 and its resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives.
The following is a message from the Speaker of the House of Representatives to the Honourable Senate. I have the honour to advise the Honourable Senate that on the 5th day of July 2022, a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Road Traffic Act 2018 was passed in the House of Representatives. Marissa Darimple Philibert, CD MP, Speaker of the House of Representatives, July 8, 2022.
Mr. President, I signify my willingness to take charge of the bill, and I beg to give further notice of second reading of the bill.
A bill shortly entitled the Road Traffic Amendment Act 2022 read a first time.
Mr. President, I beg to give further notice that at a later stage today, actually no, yes, I will move for suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take second reading of the bill. Second reading of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally. Senator.
Mr. President, the reports from committees.
Sir, I recommit reports from committees. Those in favor? Thank you. Senator Ransford Bram, you are recognized. Reports from committees.
Mr. President, I beg to lay on the table of the Senate a copy of the report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on the Hire Purchase Amendment Regulations 2022 under the Hire Purchase Act.
Thank you, Senator Bram. Notices of motions given orally.
Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that this Honourable Senate appoint a select committee comprising the following senators: Senator Aubin Hill, Senator Caban Gale, Senator Don Webby, Senator Shireen Golding Campbell, Senator Sophia Fraser-Binns, Senator Janice Allen, to sit jointly with a similar committee appointed by the House of Representatives to carry out the statutory review of the Insolvency Act. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take that motion. I also beg to give notice, Mr. President, that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motions. Be it resolved that the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Twickenham Glades Housing Development Order 2022 under the National Housing Trust Act, which were laid on the table of the Senate on the 8th day of July 2022, be referred to the Regulations Committee of the Senate for consideration and report. And be it resolved that the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection Windcrest Hills Housing Development Order 2022 under the National Housing Trust Act, which were laid on the table of the Senate on the 8th day of July 2022, be referred to the Regulations Committee of the Senate for consideration and report. And I beg to give notice, Mr. President, that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of standing orders to allow me to take these motions. Mr. President, I also beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion: the Road Traffic Act, the Road Traffic Regulations 2022 Resolution. Whereas Section 110 of the Road Traffic Act, hereinafter referred to as the Act, provides that the Minister may make regulations generally for giving effect to the Act, and whereas subsections 3 and 4 of Section 110 of the Act, respectively, provides that A, regulations made in relation to tests to be taken for driver's licenses or certain specified alternatives to such tests, and B, regulations which provide for a custodial sentence shall be subject to affirmative resolution. And whereas the Minister responsible for transport on the 7th day of June 2022 made the Road Traffic Regulations 2022, and whereas it is desirable that the Road Traffic Regulations 2022 be affirmed, now therefore be it resolved by this Honourable House as follows. 1. This resolution may be cited as the Road Traffic Regulations 2022 Resolution. 2. The Road Traffic Regulations 2022, which were laid on the table of the Senate on the 8th day of July 2022, are hereby affirmed.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Brown.
Mr. President, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the Senate, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on the Hire Purchase Amendment Regulation 2022 under the Hire Purchase Act, which was laid on the table of the Senate on the 8th day of July, be approved. Mr. President, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the Senate. Motions for leave to introduce bills. The presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public business.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I now move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take the motions, notice of which I gave earlier, and in particular, the two motions in respect of the National Housing Trust Benefits Act, orders, and the motion in respect of the establishment of the Joint Select Committee to review the Insolvency Act.
Thank you very much. Members would have heard the Minister. Those in favor? Against? Minister? Senator Brown?
Sorry. Yeah, fine. Mr. President, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders, yes, to enable me to take the motion of which I gave notice earlier.
You should have heard. Those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Senator Brown.
Very well. Mr. President, the Hire Purchase Amendment Regulations 2022 under the Hire Purchase Act were laid on the table of the Senate on the 17th of June 2022 and were referred to the Senate Regulations Committee. The committee met on the 7th of July 2022 to consider and report on the regulations. The committee heard representatives of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Mr. President, these regulations are amending the 1974 regulations to remove a reference to Part 3 of the Act, which was repealed by the Security Interest in Personal Property Act, but was not consequently removed from the regulations. Similarly, Mr. President, Regulation 6 became obsolete in light of the Act and is now repealed by these regulations. The other regulations represents an updating or modernizing of the regulations by updating fees, references to judge of the parish court instead of the resident magistrate court, and regularizing the relevant forms. And that, Mr. President, is to change 19 to 2020 so that it will easily to be added the year. And after careful considerations and deliberations, Mr. President, the committee had no objection to the regulations as tabled. Accordingly, I ask that the report regarding the foregoing be approved by this Honourable Senate. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yes, thank you very much. Proceed.
On this side, we have no objections to the proposed amendments to the regulations. In fact, my comments and intervention will be as brief as the meeting that was held to consider same. The fact is that the amendments that were made or proposed were based on some omissions, as Senator just mentioned, the chairman, omissions or oversight. And it really just underscores the importance of when we do make these reviews, that we are very thorough and detailed so as to prevent us from having short additional meetings to review what could have been addressed at the time. So it is incumbent on us when we make these changes that we take our time and get it done right, so we do not have to retrace our steps. But it is understood and appreciated based on the presentation made by the ministry. The changes that were made were necessary to be made in order to make the necessary effect to the regulations. So, of course, we support it without reservation and look forward to them coming into force. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Brown? Senator Brown, before you start, may I just say what a pleasure it is to see you. I know you were off for a couple of weeks. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a difficult period, but it's also a pleasure to see everybody in the chamber. I just note that there are 6 members on the committee, and I note that only 3 members have signed. I assume my friend, the chairman, will add his signature to the document and making it a majority who support the regulation. And on that basis, I also support it. But I just hope that we could just move it beyond the 3 members.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown. Senator Brown?
Mr. President, all the members were in fact present, but as you see, the meeting was held yesterday in order to meet the timetable today, and the opportunity to sign was not available. However, the decision of the committee was unanimous, and it was shortly done, Mr. President. I had to find time to try to extend it for an hour. but it was unanimous, and it is a relatively simple amendment, and I think that we can feel assured that it will correct an well, should I use another word then, a discrepancy, my lord, Mr. President. And in the...
You just say, my lord? I will work with that, you know.
Very well, very well. So I would ask, Mr. President, if you will put the motion in as you see fit.
Thank you very much, Senator Brown. The question is that the motion, notice of which was given earlier, be approved. Those in favor? Against? Minister?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I also now ask that the motions of which I gave notice earlier, the ones for which standing orders were suspended, that those too be approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members would have heard the motion. Those in favor? Against?
Mr. President, we find ourselves at a point where there is no further business to be conducted today. Unless it is. You know, I can always find business to be done. So, and in fact, we happen to have business that could be done. But the truth is, Mr. President, that we have placed before us today the long-awaited road traffic regulations 2022, which I know members share my sentiment in receiving these regulations today for tabling. This chamber considered passed the act in 2018 and had anticipated that these regulations would come in short order, and they took very much longer than we had anticipated. So we welcome them. We look forward to reviewing them, to ensuring that they accord with the requirements, but we trust that the extensive time that has been taken to promulgate these regulations has ensured that they are, in fact, ready for us to be taken. They have been adopted in that other place, together with the further amendments to the Road Traffic Act, which have been tabled before us today as well. And I do hope, therefore, that we will be able to take them in relatively short order, as this chamber would not wish to be a chamber that would contribute to the undue delay in the coming into effect of these regulations and the Act.
When would you expect that we would take these?
Mr. President, I would hope that we would be able to take both, if not next week, the following. I think 2 weeks to review, to have the time to review the regulations is sufficient, given that they have had substantive work done on them, and we would just take the amendment at the same time, unless it is that in discussions with the minister, he would wish me to take the act before. So that is what we anticipate, Mr. President, on this side.
Mr. President, while we too welcome the regulations, given the substantial nature and the amount of pages of regulations, I think for us to discharge our responsibilities, I would ask for a little more than a week.
Yeah, well,
perhaps 2 weeks.
You don't need my intervention in that. No doubt between yourself and the leader you would come to some viable arrangement. So the question is? The question is
that the Senate be adjourned for a date to be fixed, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just before I do that, I just ask members to recognize the absence of Ms. Curtis, who is on personal business overseas, and recognize that today is the first day that the Deputy Clerk, acting Ms. Colleen Lowe, had conduct of the clerk's duties in the Senate. So we are looking forward to a long, or I have no doubt that you are looking forward to a long career in the Senate, and I just welcome again and say that we appreciate the effort and time that you are putting in and the responsible approach that you have taken to your work thus far. This Honourable Senate now adjourns for a date to be fixed.
The what, sir?
You are on the insolvency.
Yes, sir. Myself and Janice.
You're Johnny.
Yes, sir. No, I'm saying unless Peter wants...